Good morning, welcome back. This is Daybreak and thanks for staying with us. The hashtag on X is Citizen Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. On my immediate right is Dr. John Mutunga, the MP representing Tigania West constituency, the chair of the National Assembly's Agriculture Committee. Good morning.
Good morning.
Much appreciated for your time.
Thank you very much.
Sheila Olang is development economist. Good morning, Sheila.
Morning, Ayub.
Thanks for your time. Ahmed Hashi is governance and political commentator. Good morning, Ahmed.
Good morning, brother.
Kidi Mwaga is lawyer and the convener of the Interparties Youth Forum and also a columnist with one of the major publications in the country. Good morning.
Good morning, Ayub.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's begin with what happened on Monday and the reported 31 deaths by the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights. And Citizen TV has also established a killer's code which has been moving through volatile areas on Sabbath Day, and which with the details have established is a covert team of elite operatives drawn from the DCI, the Anti-Terror Police Unit and the Intelligence Unit, and leaving many questions unanswered as to how then all this is happening despite the disbanding of the killer's code when he came to power. That's President William Ruto. Sheila, no surprise is it that high-handedness is still rife and many more Kenyans are failed by police bullet instead of the protection that they ought to offer?
I think, Ayub, I'll start by saying it's a very sad day in this country. We are looking through the papers today and we are seeing mothers in tears. And I have to say, as a woman myself, as a mother myself, I just cannot imagine the pain that is going on in these mothers' hearts. So first is condolences to the families. And I think we need to get tired of doing condolences. We need to find a truce. This needs to now come to, we need leadership and we need to find a way forward. I've said several times, in terms of governance, there's a huge trust deficit in this country. Mm-hmm. And this is prior to Gen Z, this is prior to Maandamano. There is a huge trust deficit. And what you see with the Subarus that were going in and unmarked vehicles and plainclothes, police shooting aimlessly, it just adds fuel to the fire. It doesn't help to restore law and order and trust within citizenship. And I have to say, security is a matter that goes both ways. It is the security forces, but it is also the public who have to work hand in hand in order to see success. But when you have a case where you have the public that is trying its very best, to exercise their constitutional rights, then you have criminals who are part of these protests, and then you have the police who are also behaving, as if they're above the law. And I think everybody just we need to call the house to order now, because I don't know how many times the police service can be told, please respect human rights. We have called several times that all of these issues about plainclothes police, I think there's even a matter in court now, in the judicial process, that said police, they need to wear uniform, they need to be clearly marked, with their badges, so you know who they are. And when you see the state going in blatantly with unmarked cars and people in plain clothes and shooting aimlessly, how do you expect the public to follow the law if that is what you're doing in the first place? No. We run a very high risk of becoming a very lawless country.
Yeah. And Kidi Mwaga, this is in clear violation of the directive by the High Court, is it? That the service numbers should be displayed and this should be done in accordance with the law, yet we are seeing these violations happening of police in unmarked vehicles, hooded, unidentifiable, and more or less appears that it's an incubation of the X of anarchy, is it?
I thank you so much, one, for the privilege of hosting me on this panel with these elegant colleagues. Secondly, I must express my sympathies to the families that are now mourning, the families who a day before yesterday and the other day, like last weekend, families that were together but are now torn because a member of the family is now dead. Secondly, we must underscore that the primary role of the state is to protect lives. what we are seeing is a systemic deployment of violence against the citizens by the state. which in our expectation, and a legitimate for that matter, is that it should protect these lives. In regards to managing demonstrations and all this unrest at any given time, the High Court pronounced itself very clearly that we must be able to, we must move away from the way things have been conducted previously, where members of the elite squad or people within from the National Police Service move around in unmarked vehicles when you can't identify them, you can't see the service numbers, and such other things. Today, as we speak, and my heart broke last night as I was watching the Citizen story, that still, even with a court order, we still have the members of the National Police Service or people believed to be from the National Police Service moving around in unmarked vehicles and deploying such a level of violence that you would think we are in a civil war. I think that the people of Kenya are going to stand up for their right. Yeah. The people of Kenya are not going to be cowed by this level of violence.
Yeah. Ahmed, how amiss is this of the mega pledge made by the president to end this and even disbanding the killer squad, then firing the then DCI boss, but appears to be again a case of kicking the can down the road?
Good morning, everyone. To those Kenyans who have lost their lives, Poleni, you know, the great peacemaker Bertrand Russell said that if we lose our reason and we rely on the state to reason for us, our troubles will not end. Now, I argued here months ago, if you remember, that the state was going to use the cleavages of the traditional world that we all come from and our hearth, the places that we experience where we come from, and the consciousness of ethnicity as its major weapon against this transformation that we're living in. In a way, we're very lucky to be living at this time in Kenya, because what is happening in our country is bigger, maybe even more profound than during the time of the independence era. There is a popular, national, democratic transformation happening. And the state has taken it as an attack on the state of Kenya, on the government of Kenya. Whilst it's not, there is nothing more patriotic that one person can do than to reject the government and to try and change, as the great American thinker told us, that the government is like a child. We have to change its diapers every often so that it remains clean. What has happened to our country is it's not outrageous, it's sad. It's very sad. Here in Masai Land, where I come from, in Ngong Town and Kajiado, you'd see what has happened, where the plainclothes intelligence police officers and members of an extrajudicial gang, that's what I call them, terrorized my hometown. That's what they did. They terrorized my hometown. They terrorized much of Kenya. And the reason they terrorized the country is because Saba Saba is a description of the day that Kenyans stood up against a dictatorship. And this country, there is a struggle between democrats and dictators. The dictatorship mindset that I talked about here, about an autocracy, wants to turn back the clock because they cannot deal with the post-colonial economy. They cannot deal with the issues of the 21st century brought up by the generations that are now here. They do not understand the political economy of this country. That, to me, that is very clear. And how is it that they don't understand? You see the Minister of Internal Security and his statements in the last demonstrations, in this demonstration, and after this demonstration, what the government was saying in the public domain. I mean, even a basic, decent government, that is even a small government, say somewhere in West Africa, would know how to talk to its citizens about the social and political crisis in the country. I put it to you, Mr. Ayub, that the government now has to leave the levers of violence and brutality and call for what is called a national convention. Not the convention that the Honorable Raila Odinga is calling for, which he simply wants to get the old bombers drafted, get a prime minister. We have a constitution in this country. We have it. The constitution is not working because the government is not following the constitution.
Yes.
And the whole idea of people uprising against the government is because the government is doing extrajudicial work,
yes,
extrajudicial killing,
yes,
extrajudicial refusing to accept warrants from the court.
Okay.
It is refusing the very cornerstone of our constitution, which is called the habeas corpus,
yes,
to produce the body. And they're not doing that.
Yes.
And if we continue down this path, the world is going to intervene in this country if God doesn't help us, because Kenya is too big and too important for it to fail.
Okay, and it's on that note that the UN yesterday sounded the alarm, Dr. Mutunga, but the main question remains then, how is the sanctity of the human life, the Kenyan life, so insignificant in the case where you have in a day 31 people killed?
Yes.
Ayub, thank you very much, and I wish to send my condolences to the families affected. I would like to not to speak as if I'm defending the government. Yeah. I'm here to say the way it is. We have seen we have witnessed many demonstrations in this country, many protests, many forms of picketing. I have in mind the teachers, the doctors, the nurses. We've never had a single death, not one. And they have always gotten a collective bargaining agreement at the end of the day. Now, we have, in the recent past, had several demonstrations that have been bloody. And the reason is negation to Article 37 of the Constitution. Picketing was put in the Constitution specifically to try and manage the demonstrations, because even way before, there used to be deaths. Why? Because people were breaking into other people's property and stealing. Other people were, using weapons. They were basically violent. So, although the provisions of Article 27 are very clear that we have the rights, these rights need to be conditioned, and the conditioning is in Article 37. So when you shelve Article 37 and you say now we can have any form of demonstration, we can steal anything, break anywhere, ban anything, and then the government is considered to have failed, I think we are all wrong as Kenyans. We need to face the reality, and the reality is, why are we having violent demonstrations? Where did we go wrong? And we all know, number one, the level of destitution in this country is very high. The poverty levels are high. Kenya has a GDP per capita of around 1,800, US dollars. It means most of the Kenyans should be wealthy. But unfortunately, the greater majority of Kenyans are languishing in poverty. Whether you reduce the cost of living, unless you are able to supply people with free things, then can you be able to take care of everyone? So there are people who have almost nothing to feed on. Why did we get here? We have had a long process of development that failed to focus on providing opportunities for Kenyans to get to earn a living. And it's not the William Ruto government which has done this. There have just been many governments which have abandoned the path of development. When other countries were transforming, undergoing industrial revolution, trying to organize themselves to create jobs, we were busy organizing, putting across policies to better ourselves as people in positions. That is what the problem is. So I have stood in that house many times, not 3, 4 times, and Azad can be checked, and said we are facing a time bomb. Why? As a country, we have an extremely enlightened youth who are extremely, in very difficult circumstances.
Yes.
They graduate from universities and colleges, middle-level colleges and all over. We have created a university in almost every constituency, every county, and we are discharging these fellows without having an absorption capacity. So what are we trying to talk about? Whenever there is anything small, they blame the government. Everybody blames the government. So failures of the past are resonating now. Okay. But let me say this, and without any fear of contradiction. The only president I have seen being deliberate on job creation is Ruto. Let's debate that out. He is the first person to start looking at possibilities of employing people quickly. Quick absorption through the house, the very, negated housing project. There is a formal way of getting Kenyans to work elsewhere. Formal. It never used to be formalized. There were a few people working out there in their private capacity trying to get Kenyans out. We have several initiatives. Okay. But I'm not trying to say that the government of William Ruto is doing extremely well in terms of job creation. Okay. I'm saying that we need to refocus as a country. We need to ask ourselves, where did we go wrong? Okay. How can we solve this problem? Because it's a major problem.
Yes, I mean, briefly before we go on a break, come back. I
don't agree with my learned, my honourable member of parliament on the issue of job creation. Kenya is suffering the largest recession since independence. The economy has shrunk by 1/4. And these are not my statistics. It's the Kenya Bureau of Statistics, which in your last show...
Kenya National Bureau of Statistics.
He was here. Yeah. It's not my theoretical, it's the numbers. The unemployment bulge is so huge that it's gagging on the throats of our republic. President's housing policy is a failure. Everybody can see it. His agricultural policy is a failure through fertilizer. His entire economic policy is now being led by the IMF, and it's not the government making any decisions because they are pumping money to try and prop this country up. His foreign policy is in the toilet over there in Sudan, where they caught Kenya Army arms and bullets helping the civil strife. There's nothing to write home about Mr. Ruto. However, we are not going to overthrow the government of Kenya. We are not going to destroy this country. We are going to talk about what is happening. Yes. And we're going to seek change. And we're going to go to the ballot box. And we're going to defeat Mr. Ruto and his acolytes at the ballot box. And he's going to hand over power in 2027 in a constitutional way. If we are arguing for the constitution of this country, we cannot use extrajudicial constitutional means ourselves to go to where we want to go. Then we will be hypocrites. What we want, Mr. Ayub, I put it to you, is to make sure that the government is on the path of helping the country and not making it bloodlet like it's been doing in the last month. Okay,
it's at the top of the hour and we are due for a break here on the broadcast. When we come back, Sheila and Kidi, as the young voices, I'll be beginning with you, and Kidi especially on areas that you have written about, inequality in the face of devolution, and Sheila, what Dr. Mutunga pointed out, as well as the agriculture sector, which will be paying attention to the underfunding and the role of Parliament itself to discuss here on the broadcast, and we welcome your contributions. The hashtag on X is Citizen Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. We are back with more after the break here on the broadcast. Stay tuned.